Part to Episode 1. After news broke of a Kaiju appearing near the town center, citizens were immediately evacuated. Even in a critical situation, Kafka smiled, assuring everyone that everything would be alright. Minna was terrified but still believed, trying to stand and leave the crumbling city. Immediately, the defense force was deployed to deal with the Kaiju. Just days ago, Kafka was desperately searching for Minna in the smoke and dust. But now everything had changed. His crybaby friend had turned her back, now viewing him as the dangerous Kaiju No. 8 that needed to be eliminated. Following Mina's orders, the entire force opened fire on the protagonist. Suddenly, a destructive beam flashed, sweeping away all the helicopters in an instant. From within the smoke, Kafka had transformed into a furious, giant Kaiju. After a roar, a massive surge of energy erupted from him, flattening the entire city. Waking from the nightmare, the protagonist felt relieved that the vision was only a dream. After the Kaiju's rampage, the city entered an emergency reconstruction phase, striving to rebuild everything. Strolling through the ruins, Mina suddenly received news that Kafka was still in prison since his trial. Seeing the damage from the previous battle, Hoshina also wanted to scold that idiot. Why did he cause such a mess that day? Only to suffer like this. Meanwhile, his senior noticed Reno's low spirits and took him out to cheer him up. That hyperactive guy dragged him around taking pictures, truly carefree. While resting, Pink Hair told his junior to relax. It was only his first day with the new squad, and he couldn't be so gloomy. As for Kafka, he thought there was no way he could continue as a regular squad member. Hearing that, Reno chuckled, remembering the time before his senior became a Kaiju. Even though he was always pessimistic, he would keep coming back time and again. On the way to the base, Reno set a goal for himself, to become stronger to protect his senior. Meanwhile, Kikaru couldn't believe how flashy that pink-haired guy was, taking pictures and posting them in the chat group at every chance. After replying, she pondered, I need to become stronger so I can stop him if necessary. Just then, a bald, tall man walked in, telling her to report to the captain's office. She was currently assigned to Squad 1 while waiting for the old base to be repaired. When she was in America, she heard that Squad 1 was Japan's core defense force. Overall, this was a perfect place to hone her skills. With determination, Kikaru told herself she would try her best to learn everything from Japan's strongest squad captain. After knocking repeatedly with no answer, Baldy opened the door and introduced himself. Seeing Narumi huddled under a blanket, gaming like an addict, he closed the door and told Kikaru to wait a moment. Then he walked inside and kicked the young man, sending him headfirst into the gaming console, short-circuiting it. Baldy angrily ordered Narumi to clean his room quickly, but the young punk stubbornly refused to listen. So, he deliberately kicked the youth into an expensive model just to annoy him. Seeing the captain act like some lowlife, Kikaru felt deflated and didn't bother to speak. To deal with this lazy punk, Baldy had to round up several subordinates and dump all the models into the trash. With that slovenly appearance, Kikaru genuinely didn't know how to react appropriately. Respecting him as her superior, she immediately saluted and asked for permission to stay here for a while. Narumi told the kid there was no need to be stiff. Instead, he only expected one thing from her. Just as he was about to speak, an alarm blared, so he told Kikaru, remember to observe my battle and learn from it. I'll give you a special seat for observation. As soon as they received news of the Kaiju's appearance, Defense Force Squad 1 was immediately dispatched. Helicopters and missiles simultaneously moved into position, ready for battle. Along with that, all citizens received an urgent announcement to evacuate to shelters. Soon, the entire army was at the port, aiming at the moving target offshore. Deploying their formation, they immediately opened fire, continuously launching missiles at the Kaiju. Under the relentless assault, it painfully shifted course towards the bridge. When close enough, the Kaiju unexpectedly dove face first into the sea, swimming across. It ripped the bridge in half with its sturdy spikes, then resurfaced, causing chaos and forcing the forces to change their plans. In response, Narumi asked everyone to continue holding the lizard at the port. Receiving orders from the captain, all forces concentrated their firepower to control the Kaiju's direction. Looking at the data, Kikaru was incredibly surprised to learn that all members had power release levels over 40%. After luring it to the kill zone, it was Narumi's turn to enter the fray. Before leaving, the captain ran a hand through his hair and said, I don't need your strict demeanor, kid. With those words, he jumped, deploying his weapon, much to Kikaru's surprise. Next, he pointed his blade down and plunged it with full force into the Kaiju's back, causing it immense pain. Without hesitation, Narumi squeezed, causing its entire body to swell up and explode like a balloon. As a result, the lizard's eyes widened and it bit the dust, while the port was showered with blood and scattered organs. After finishing, Narumi demanded the rookie show overwhelming power, saying, I don't need useless people. After watching the battle, Kikaru stood up straight and exclaimed, this guy is interesting. Yet, somehow Mina became the center of attention, making the young man fume. Narumi furiously cursed the tabloids, calling them a bunch of liars only good at exposing others. Kikaru asked if he wasn't answering his phone, but he waved his hand, saying he was too lazy. I'd rather sit here and enjoy the breeze than attend those boring meetings. Suddenly, Baldy kicked his chair away, then grabbed the lazy captain by the ear and dragged him off. However, when he heard it concerned Kaiju No. 8, Narumi's expression changed. In his cell, Kafka took the opportunity to do push-ups, improving his health after 5 days of eating, sleeping, and resting. The commander-in-chief wanted him to show his usefulness, but if he didn't specify, how was anyone supposed to know? Suddenly, security opened the door, telling Kafka to follow them to the meeting room. Seeing Kikaru ignore him, the old man thought to himself, this must be serious. With Narumi present, the commander-in-chief unexpectedly transferred the protagonist to Squad 1. He believed this combination would create the strongest team capable of defeating any disaster. He also advised Kafka to display that power to earn everyone's recognition. If he couldn't do it, he'd be sent to the doghouse for good. After some consideration, the old man was about to give his answer when the captain suddenly spoke up, refusing. Narumi hooked his thumb and said, the strongest squad only needs me. Forget it. The commander-in-chief reminded him that numbers 9 and 10 were vastly different from all previous Kaiju. They are Kaiju that continuously evolve unpredictably. If we become complacent, a great catastrophe will occur. Therefore, we must also constantly evolve. Understand? Narumi sighed, accepting the request on the condition that he could turn No. 8 into his own weapon. Kafka flat out refused, not wanting to die because he still had his comrades. Besides, I still have the goal of becoming a magnificent Defense Force member, which I must definitely achieve. With that, Kafka raised his hand, sincerely asking to join Squad 1. Seeing his resolute eyes, Narumi could only sigh and say, I don't like listening to lectures. If you lose control like last time, I'll turn you into an outfit. Kafka didn't complain. Instead, he bowed his head and sincerely thanked him. On the other side, Mina quickly finished her work and invited Narrow-Eyed Bro to train with her. The next day, Kikaru returned home to pack her bags and move to the base. Walking through the hallway, she gazed solemnly at a photo for the last time before continuing on her way. Somewhere else, Kikuru's father was harboring a secret research project with other scientists. At the same time, on the ground, people began to feel slight tremors. Then, in an instant, the city suddenly collapsed, sending people scattering in panic. After the quake ended, what remained in the city was a deep hole that appeared from nowhere. Episode 2. Many curious citizens peered down, turning on their phones, and discovered hundreds of tiny specks of light. When they zoomed in, they were horrified to realize they were the eyes of hundreds of giant ants, jostling to climb up. So, the whole crowd sprinted away, knowing anyone who ran slowly would become the monster's meal. After the training session ended, everyone was allowed a short break, but Kafka was utterly exhausted, gasping for breath. If this kept up, Kikaru knew he would soon be left behind. Despite being shunned by everyone, the old man persevered in his training to prove his usefulness. Meanwhile, Kikaru eagerly asked the captain to train her. She opened his office door to find Narumi on his knees, begging him for money. For some reason, he'd already blown his entire paycheck from last week. The girl angrily scolded him. Who told you to order all that junk? Now, you can't even afford instant noodles. And you dare to borrow money from your subordinate. Are you insane? Just as she was about to lecture him again, Baldi walked in, telling them both to prepare for deployment. Whenever on a mission, Narumi seemed to transform into a completely different person. Adopting an arrogant demeanor, he ordered all members to depart and wipe them out. Back in the city, people scrambled to find the nearest shelter, but most were already overcrowded. While moving to another shelter, 2 children were left behind and had to hide behind a car. The older brother comforted his sister. Don't cry, Squad 1 is coming to save us. Seeing the ants staring at them, the brother, though scared, bravely stood to shield her. Watching it ran the car away, the 2 siblings could only cry in helplessness. The moment the monster opened its mouth to strike, a flash of light shot down, piercing it and ending its life. After defeating it, Narumi told the 2 kids, remember to go home and post online about how cool Squad 1's captain is. After the kids left, he received news that the ants were being contained on all fronts. Sensing the situation was stable, he immediately told his junior and Kaiju No. 8 to deal with all monsters in this area. With the cooperation of the Defense Force and Command, the civilian evacuation was quickly completed. Before proceeding to the next step, the commander-in-chief sternly said, no matter what, we will eradicate all the monsters. Under his command, everyone's morale was boosted to complete the operation. With the command center's guidance, the operation to lure the monsters in the city was proceeding smoothly. Receiving orders from her superior, Kikaru calmly pulled out a massive battle axe. Right behind her, a small squad was ready to rush in for rescue, but it was completely unnecessary. With her strength, Kikaru easily swatted them away, astounding the entire squad. Not stopping there, she charged forward, confronting them directly with skillful techniques that impressed everyone. Even so, she wasn't satisfied because Vice Captain Hoshina was even faster, and Captain Mina's attacks had even more destructive power. Taking them as her role models, Kikaru wanted to prove to everyone that she was no pushover. Witnessing the rookie cleave an ant apart with her axe, Kafka exclaimed in admiration, you're amazing, kid. After that, Kikaru pulled out her rifle and fired, telling the senior to not be careless. The squad leader's annoyance showed as she praised, you're interesting, kid. We're a good match. Hearing that, the guys got competitive, wanting to see who could take down more Kaiju. Baldi seized this opportunity to say that Narumi was even worse than Kikaru when he first started, just to annoy him. Honestly, the captain found the situation strange because these ants usually live burrowed underground. Even finding them digging tunnels underground was rare, let alone them surfacing to cause chaos in the city. The more Narumi thought about it, the more familiar the situation seemed. It was as if a troublesome commander might appear at any moment. At the same time, on the Western Front, all eyes were on Kafka, putting pressure on the old man. All his superiors had high expectations, while he was trembling with fear, wanting to escape this place as quickly as possible. Seeing the swarm of ants charging, Kafka slapped his face, trying to compose himself. The protagonist concentrated, transforming part of his body into Kaiju form, then rushed to attack the monster, but it had no effect. The old man knew this wasn't enough, but didn't dare to transform completely into a Kaiju, because he was afraid he would lose control and cause disaster again, like before. However, Kafka also knew that now was not the time for hesitation. To stand by her side, he decided to transform into Kaiju no 8, as everyone expected. However, the newly formed shell mysteriously shattered into pieces. Before the old man could gather his thoughts, the ant struck him, sending him flying through a wall. In front of everyone, Kafka struggled to get up, wondering why he couldn't transform. Just as Narumi predicted, someone detected a new Kaiju reaction in the elimination zone. However, what they didn't anticipate was that it appeared right beneath Kaiju no 8's feet. From underground, an ant suddenly emerged in front of Kafka. On its head, a grotesque mass of flesh slowly transformed into Kaiju no 9, shocking the entire defense force. It scratched its head, saying it surfaced because it sensed Kaiju no 8's reaction. Seeing the protagonist standing there, it asked, "You're no 8, aren't you?" Before the young man could utter a sound, no 9 punched a hole in his shoulder, spilling blood. Refusing to stand still and suffer, Kafka knelt, trying to transform again, but failed. The control room feared Kaiju no 8 was done for, so they contacted the captain for backup. However, as Narumi jumped down, another no 9 blocked his path. Its sudden appearance made him question, could there have been 2 of them from the start? Not stopping there, the scattered ants suddenly rose again, just as Squad 3 had reported. If what they said was true, these resurrected ants would become stronger. Everything happened so suddenly, throwing everything into disarray with no way to cope with the situation. Now, the squad had to expend a lot of firepower just to defeat a minor ant. After defeating it, the squad immediately rushed to provide gunfire support. But no, 9 instantly shot them down. It pointed, saying, "I'll take you down and steal that giant Kaiju power." With that, no 9 continuously attacked, making Kafka struggle to find a way to cope. The protagonist really wanted to destroy it right here, but for some reason, he couldn't transform. The commander-in-chief desperately wanted to go to the front lines, but was held back by Scarface. Because if he used that weapon continuously, it would be life-threatening. Therefore, from now on, the commander was only allowed to use it in emergencies. Back in the battle, Note 9 created bizarre masses of flesh, preparing to attack the old man. But they were suddenly split in half. It asked curiously, "Who are you?" But Kikaru didn't bother to answer, saying, "Today, I will cut you down right here." Meanwhile, Narumi was trying to mediate when No 9 shot him in the face. The angered man jumped onto a building, yelling, "I just wanted to talk." Seeing that it only cared about No 8, he jumped down to fight it head-on to end the nuisance. Knowing the current situation was very tense, the commander-in-chief believed this was a challenge the new generation needed to overcome. Episode 3. Hearing that the old man couldn't transform, Kikaru could only slash at the target to prevent it from acting for as long as possible. If No 9 is why you can't transform, then take advantage of it before it recovers. Listening to the girl, both split up simultaneously, confusing it. Seeing this, No 9 immediately split its head in two to attack from both sides. Kafka, being slow, got several holes punched in him, while Kikaru tried to defend with her battle axe. In an instant, No 9 rushed to her side, shooting her in the hip, causing her to drop her weapon. It confidently created a pile of flesh to finish her off. But Kikaru unexpectedly jumped down and counterattacked. The powerful girl cut through the bizarre cells with the determination to protect what was important to her. When she was little, Kikaru greatly admired her mother, a woman beloved by the people. She wielded one of the defense force's strongest weapons and often appeared on TV. So, when her classmates learned Kikaru had the strongest mother in the country, everyone rushed to talk to her. Even when she came home exhausted from work, her mother still enthusiastically played with her daughter. Watching the mother and daughter frolic happily, the father could only sigh. Let them do what they want. During their conversation, Kikaru accidentally noticed her mother's injured hand. Her mother put her down, smiling, and said, "The Kaiju today was a bit strong, but I'm fine." Instead, a worried Kikaru replied, "I'll join the force to protect you, Mom," surprising her parents. Understanding her daughter's sincerity, her mother patted her head, promising to protect Kikaru whenever she faced difficulties. The following months were filled with laughter and happiness. She thought those peaceful days would last forever, until her mother unexpectedly passed away. On a pouring rainy day, news outlets simultaneously reported her sacrifice in the battle against Kaiju no 6. The funeral was grand, attended by many people worldwide. During the funeral, Kikaru shed tears, blaming herself as a liar. "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you, Mom." When she saw the anger in her father's eyes, Kikaru wiped away her tears and focused on becoming the strongest. Back in battle, she was determined to destroy No 9 at all costs so no one else would fall. The monster sensed trouble and deliberately swelled the ant's head to throw its opponent off balance. In that critical moment, Kafka rushed over and kicked its head, saving her in the nick of time. Despite his crippled leg, the old man created an opening for Kikaru to turn the tables. The girl hooked No 9's head with her combat axe, then sliced its body into sushi. Seizing the opportunity, Kafka immediately transformed to finish the battle. However, the fear was still there, slowly engulfing the old man, turning him into a rampaging, out-of-control monster. When he calmed down, the protagonist suddenly realized his hands were stained with the blood of his beloved comrades. And for that reason, the old man failed to transform completely. It turned out no, 9 hadn't done anything. It was all due to Kafka's unstable mental state. Faced with the situation, the control room was about to switch to Plan B when Narumi suddenly spoke up. After struggling with no, 9's true form, he decided to unleash 98% of his power. It was so intense that the control room had to cordon off the surrounding area as a no-access zone, or people would die like flies. With this power, each strike would have an additional burning effect, preventing wounds from healing. Sensing danger, Sojin tried to retreat and keep his distance but was riddled with holes by the rifle. Out of options, it had to switch to relentless attacks but still couldn't stop Narumi. However, instead of running, No 9 with its bulky body somehow dodged the bullets. When it got close, Narumi immediately switched to close quarters combat but still had no success. The monster dodged to the side, boasting, "I've learned." With that, it extended a finger and fired, then created countless cells to surround Narumi. By the time he realized the monster had laid a trap, it was already too late. Witnessing the captain take the full force of the explosion, Scarface couldn't believe No 9 could evolve even during battle. According to Squad 3's report, it had the ability to continuously learn and evolve through interaction with humans. Frankly, this thing was like a virus-type Kaiju. The control room was sweating profusely when Narumi suddenly yelled, "I'm not dead yet." Not to brag, but I haven't even gone all out. With that, Narumi ran a hand through his hair, full of confidence, saying, "You're dead for sure, kid." No 9 had just compared his eyes to a monster's when it was immediately pierced. In fact, Narumi also possessed another specialized gear, made from No 1's retina. It allowed him to see through and exploit all of No 9's weaknesses. Therefore, even if it saw through him, it couldn't dodge. After taking a beating, No 9 suddenly realized that he had been attacking exactly where it was going to move. The commander-in-chief revealed that Kaiju No 1 had the ability to predict the future by observing brainwave signals emitted by organisms. Then it would record them and unleash unavoidable attacks. With those eyes, No 9 was now nothing more than a shooting target for Narumi to blast away at. Taking advantage of the billowing smoke, the captain leaped into the air, aiming for the Kaiju's core. Even with its life threatened, No 9 could only helplessly stand there as Narumi blasted it to pieces. The monster quickly crumbled, dying to the cheers of the control room, except for the commander-in-chief. Because on the other side, Kafka was still struggling, unable to transform into a Kaiju. As soon as No 9 recovered, it immediately fired, shooting Kikoru's weapon out of her hand, and the old man received a bonus of several holes in his body, lying limp like a torn rag. Kafka writhed in pain, his fighting spirit almost non-existent. He mumbled that he was afraid of losing his will to the monster and harming his comrades. "Above all, I'm afraid of myself." Kikoru landed, her face full of anger, telling him, "Don't underestimate me. From the captain to the vice captain, and even our comrades in the same batch, even you, yourself, should never underestimate our defense force." Despite her injuries, Kikoru continued to charge into battle full of courage. Kafka greatly admired the girl's will and also blamed himself for being foolish. In response to that determination, the old man used his remaining strength to transform into a Kaiju. With faith in his comrades, he found the courage to embrace this power. After he finished transforming, Kikoru complained, "Why are you always so slow?" Just as the battlefield reached a stalemate, a breakthrough occurred. Without hesitation, the commander-in-chief immediately moved to phase 2 of the operation. Hearing his comrades' report, Narumi felt uneasy, wondering if the old man would cause trouble. Seeing No 8 standing right before it, No 9 immediately emitted a signal, calling for the ants to rise. While Kikoru was still trying to grasp the situation, the monster grew wings, preparing to unleash its trump card. In that situation, Kafka placed a hand on his shoulder, admitting, "I still can't trust myself, but my trust in everyone else is 100%. Forced by him to clean up the small fry, Kikoru turned and threatened, "If you don't win, I'll cut you down." Kafka turned his face and replied, "I'll crush him," then diligently ran to strike the enemy. Last time, No 9 had been beaten by the protagonist, so it had learned its lesson. The monster manipulated threads to tie down No 8's legs, then unfurled its wings for a finishing blow. However, before it could finish its sentence, the protagonist, with superhuman speed, had already snatched its heart. Realizing it was the ant's core, he immediately crushed it, then turned back and said, "There won't be a next time." No 9's hair stood on end. It frantically unleashed everything it had to fight against the monstrously powerful Kaiju. Even with such strength, Kafka had never fully utilized No 8's power. However, after being swallowed by it once, the old man knew how to better use his body. He deliberately jumped far away to maintain distance. But No 9 still managed to grab him upon landing. Suddenly, Kafka shot straight up into the sky, then plummeted like a missile. When close enough, the old man immediately changed his stance, unleashing a full power strike. Despite raising its hands to block the attack, No 9 was still crushed to the ground and disintegrated. Witnessing No 8's power firsthand, the control room could only exclaim, "It's beyond imagination." Episode 4. As soon as No 9 was defeated, the remaining monsters also began to show signs of disappearing. Instead of joining the celebration, Kikoru continued to raise her gun, eliminating the remaining ants like father, like daughter. The girl's progress reminded the commander-in-chief of Narumi back in the day. Not only Kikoru, but the others also surprised him greatly. The progress of today's young generation far exceeded the Commander-in-Chief's expectations. Baldy looked at the statistics and exclaimed, "The total damage from this operation is unbelievably small, truly worthy of being the strongest squad chosen by the Commander-in-Chief." After the operation concluded, Kafka returned to human form and high-fived Kikaru in celebration. Seeing this, the Commander-in-Chief smiled and praised, "You three did great," making his daughter cry tears of joy. Along with that, he also told the entire squad to continue ensuring the safety of the surrounding area. Narumi alone felt something was off because No. 9 had clearly said, "I will steal that giant Kaiju power." Was it just aiming to deal with No. 8, or was there a deeper purpose? Suddenly, everyone in the control room detected a Kaiju reaction, but the exact location was unclear. Amidst the rubble, No. 9 expressed regret for not being able to destroy No. 8. Despite the failure, it would still complete its remaining objective. "I will definitely seize the power of the giant beast," it said, then vanished mysteriously. Witnessing that, Kafka immediately contacted Narumi, reporting that this one wasn't the original. At that moment, an employee in the control room transformed into a Kaiju behind the Commander-in-Chief. After transforming, it grinned and said, "Finally, I've found a compatible host, in Kaiju No. 2. On the front line, everyone rushed back to base upon learning that No. 9's target was the Commander-in-Chief. The daughter couldn't stand idly by upon hearing her father was threatened. Under the commander's orders, everyone ran like hell as the Kaiju charged. It raised a finger and blew away the tent, but no one was killed. Luckily, the commander quickly blocked the attack, otherwise, everyone would have been dead. Having his order overridden, the stubborn, beady-eyed old man wanted to stay and fight, but Scarface cut him off. "The opponent is on a different level. We'd only get in the way by staying." The commander equipped his weapon, and No. 9 confidently boasted, "My previous forms were just as strong, but that was before my transformation. Now, you're no match." The Commander-in-Chief had deliberately created the strongest squad to be one step ahead of the Kaiju. However, he hadn't anticipated the rate of its evolution would be faster than he thought. With that, both exchanged a powerful blow, blowing away everything around them. Scarface assessed if Squad 3's report is accurate, the commander still has a chance. No sooner had he finished speaking than he was completely overwhelmed by the sheer force of No. 9's attack. Then it widened its eyes and boasted, "Oops, I accidentally swung too hard." Witnessing that, everyone realized this Kaiju was stronger than anticipated. Just when they thought it was over, the commander unexpectedly counterattacked, making No. 9's hands spurt blood. Carrying the will of a father, he stood up and declared, "Today will be your end." Meanwhile, Narumi was speeding at an incredible pace, hoping the commander would hold out. Back in the fight, the old man refused to evacuate, saying this thing could pinpoint his location. "Running is useless, so you should leave here now." When he was young, the staff member greatly admired the commander and worked tirelessly to work alongside him. Just like the commander, he refused to leave, saying, "My duty is to help you win. Let me fight by your side until the very end." The commander-in-chief accepted his request, then activated the Kaiju weapon's maximum power. Although his lifespan would be shortened in return, he would gain strength equivalent to a super Kaiju in human form, allowing him to confront No. 9 directly without fear of being overwhelmed. As their fists collided, both their hands immediately bled from the immense pressure caused by the opponent. No. 9 dusted off its hand and praised, "You're pretty good. Now you're worthy of becoming my power." Without hesitation, the commander immediately leaped up, unleashing a devastating blow that crushed its entire body. Next, the old man unleashed a series of attacks, turning the monster into a pulpy mess to end the battle. Thinking it was over, it unexpectedly stood up, challenging him for more. The staff member tried to connect a circuit to his right arm to compensate for energy, but it was already too late. The commander weakly resisted against No. 9's relentless attacks. Taking advantage of an opening, he fired a shot at its body, but it wasn't enough to even tickle it. The kind monster then smashed him into a wall in return. Though he didn't want to, the commander had to accept that he was past his prime. His strength was no longer what it used to be. No. 9 leaped up, assaulting his entire body, inflicting numerous severe injuries. When everything reached a deadlock, the commander still stood up, telling the staff member, "Put everything into attack mode." Seeing the dire situation, his subordinate desperately tried to persuade him to stop, but it was too late to turn back. "Even if I can no longer fight, the defense force already has an incredibly wonderful new generation." Following in his wife's footsteps, the commander decided to sacrifice his life to destroy No. 9. Just as his power reached its peak, the cunning monster quickly struck first. Back then, when he learned Kikaru wanted to join the defense force, his wife was both happy and worried because it was an extremely dangerous job. "If the girl is truly serious, I will train Kikaru rigorously so she has the strength to survive. So please, yell at her as much as you can for me, okay?" After being struck by No. 9, making him cough blood, the commander used all his remaining strength to lift its arm. Even the staff member was surprised to see a super high-frequency energy running through his body. Seeing the monster raise its hand, he vowed, "I will definitely end this nightmare. For Kikaru's future, you are not allowed to exist in this world." Seizing the opportunity, the commander unleashed a fatal technique, making number .9 shriek in pain. Scarface gasped, recognizing this as No. 2's signature attack, capable of leveling an entire city. "Are you trying to die? How dare you unleash that with a human body?" However, before he could celebrate, No. 9 stuck out its tongue and said, "I was prepared to take that blow," leaving the staff member stunned. Could it be planning to put all its power into defense? Unfortunately, the commander had already anticipated that this monster couldn't be killed with just one blow. He offered his deepest condolences, then delivered a second blow, blowing away both its body and a nearby building. While moving, Kafka happened to notice the captain's uneasy expression as they neared the scene. After the explosion ended, the staff member frantically searched for the commander amidst the thick smoke. As the smoke slowly cleared, he saw No 9 standing there, cursing, in its squishy body. However, the one smiling in the end was it, because the commander had failed to destroy its core. It sneered, "If you had a monster's body, I might have lost." The staff member tried to tell the commander to leave, but his mind was no longer clear. Taking advantage of that weakness, No 9 slowly expanded its cells and absorbed him. A moment later, both arrived at the scene, confused as to why the commander was just hovering there. Kafka, sharp as ever, immediately warned the captain, "That's not him." At that moment, No 9 unexpectedly attacked, forcing the old man to rush forward and push it away. The destructive power was so immense that the protagonist couldn't believe it was the same monster from before. Hearing Narumi's voice, No 9 immediately tore off its ear, saying, "I've already dealt with the old man and merged with him." From above, Kikaru leaped down, continuously firing at the monster. Seeing this, the monster revealed a part of its body and asked, "Are you his daughter?" Which filled her with despair. Before it could attack, Narumi teleported in, unleashing his full power, forcing it to stop. In fact, the commander had intended to retire to the rear after forming the strongest squad. At that point, he would trust you with the entire defense force of this country. Carrying the commander's responsibility, Narumi vowed to destroy this guy no matter what. Just as the tension peaked, No 9 suddenly grew wings and excused itself. After merging, "I'm suddenly feeling signs of rejection, so I'm taking off." Narumi wouldn't allow that. He charged down, unleashing a finishing blow, but it had no effect. No 9 revealed, when the opponent's defense is too superior, that move is useless. With that, it opened its mouth, preparing to spit out a dark projectile. Forgetting that No 8 was standing below, powering up, Kafka, full of rage, demanded, "Give back the commander," then unleashed a full power punch. However, this time No 9 easily blocked it with just one hand. Episode 5. While the two were intensely fighting Kaiju No 9, Kikaru could only cry in helplessness, knowing her father had been absorbed by that monster. The more it fought, the more superior No 9 proved to be, even overwhelming both of them. Even though the two had combined their efforts, they couldn't pose much of a challenge to it. The moment their fists collided, Kafka seemed to be immediately at a disadvantage. After demonstrating its power, No 9 extended its wings, preparing to fly off, when its arm suddenly fell off with a thud. While the opponent was off guard, Narumi immediately lunged forward, stabbing it in the arm. Although his attack was strong, it wasn't enough to defeat it. In a moment of carelessness, Kafka seized the opportunity to launch a surprise attack, causing No 9's body to crumble. "This time, you won't escape, because you've gone too far. Daring to lay a hand on Kikuru's father means you're done for, kid." With that, Kafka poured all his strength, along with bitter tears, into blasting No 9 away. The monster calmly landed and realized its recovery process was being hindered, making the rejection reaction even faster. As expected, in the end, "The one standing in my way is Kaiju No 8. From within the smoke, the protagonist unexpectedly burst out, blasting off its remaining arm. Then, he reunited with the captain to gang up and destroy that monster once and for all. Knowing there was no escape, No 9 desperately transformed itself into a living bomb to turn the tide. Kafka and the captain couldn't react in time and took the full force of the explosion. Meanwhile, Kikaru outside could only scream their names before being completely engulfed by the bomb. After leveling a huge area, Number 9's body reached its limit and couldn't regenerate for a while. But what truly bothered it was that the old man and his grandchild had managed to defend themselves and survive the explosion. Number 9 regretted not resorting to such a cowardly trick from the start. With that, the monster split its head in two and targeted the two injured individuals, who couldn't move. Both of them rushed to protect them. Seizing the moment, Number 9 deliberately transformed into the commander, saying, "Next time, I'll take action." Kaiju Number 8. It clearly declared that the age of monsters would begin, then took flight. From the rubble, Kafka slowly stood up and surveyed his surroundings. Seeing Narumi nearby was fine. The old man returned to his human form, filled with an unbearable regret. "How dare you utter those words with the commander's face?" In their frantic screams, everyone still couldn't believe it was true. The next morning, the entire nation received news of the commander's sacrifice during the recent Kaiju disaster. At the funeral, the entire defense force was present to offer their deepest condolences. Each farewell shot echoed, conveying unspeakable pain. Under the heavy rain, Narumi still vividly remembered the day the commander single-handedly took down a Kaiju. In front of the new recruits, from an unknown kid, he relentlessly strived to earn the commander's trust. "Perhaps it's time for me to bear the burden of the force in this country." A moment later, Narumi went to the office to ask Kikaru why she didn't attend the commander's farewell. The girl sat sobbing, blaming herself for being unable to do anything. "I was too weak, so I couldn't save him. Because of me, he escaped. Even so, I still want to become stronger, Captain Narumi." Kikaru bitterly believed that her father must still be trapped inside that thing. "I will postpone my father's send-off until the defense force destroys Number 9. She apologized for losing her composure and was ready to accept punishment, but Narumi deemed it unnecessary. "Before we face Number 9 again, I will train you to become the strongest, second only to me. Everything the commander taught me, I will pass on to you. Only when you show results will I overlook your absence from the ceremony. Eavesdropping from outside, Kafka suddenly realized his hand was no longer intact as before. Though hidden beneath his gloves, the old man resolved to become even stronger, then quietly left. At the research facility, the staff handed over full leadership to the scarred man, just as the commander had instructed. The vice commander smiled, chiding that guy for always pushing troublesome matters onto others. Afterward, he asked the staff and everyone to continue their development to prepare for the revenge battle. In the training room, Kikaru eagerly rushed to attack, only to be taken down by the squad leader after a single misstep. Her younger sister admitted that she maintained her distance skillfully. No wonder she confidently brought a 6-barrel gun to the battlefield. Narumi, sitting high above, wondered when she would be skilled enough to be his opponent. All of Squad 1's squad leaders have the potential to become future captains. So, within 1 month, once I finish this game, you must surpass all of them. Right after he spoke, the young man was kicked in the butt by the old man, who told him to get to work. Seeing Kikoru's determined gaze, the older sister licked her lips, surprised that this girl was also quite a fighter. Upstairs, the old man asked Narumi if he intended to recruit Kaiju number 8 as a combat asset. As both were considering, they received a notification from their superiors. Taking advantage of his leave, Kafka immediately headed back to his apartment to enjoy some peace. On the other side, the force discovered parts of the protagonist's body that couldn't revert to human form. Researchers believed this was the phenomenon of Kaiufication. Although many uncertainties remained, they thought that if he continued to transform, he wouldn't be able to turn back into a human. Kafka was aware of this, and was currently allowed out to arrange his affairs. In short, if he continued like this, it would be difficult for him to return to a normal life. While cleaning his room, the old man suddenly remembered something important, so he went out to inform the other two. Despite strict surveillance, the protagonist remained as carefree as ever. He even made funny faces to make kids laugh while waiting at a red light. At the scene, the cleanup crew constantly complained about how tough the kaiju shells were. This thermal saw is expensive and ineffective. What bad luck. While complaining, the guys suddenly noticed Kafka stopping by to say hello. After greeting them, he returned the books he had borrowed. Seeing everyone struggling, Kafka went over to borrow a chainsaw and lend the group a hand. Watching the young man easily slice through the kaiju, the crew exclaimed that he truly lived up to his 10 years as a veteran. The chubby guy advised Kafka to consider returning to this job. Compared to being a rookie soldier in the defense force, this place is still far better. Upon hearing that, the bald guy sprayed water in the chubby guy's face for his careless talk. Kafka didn't mind and instead decided to work the whole day. That afternoon, after saying goodbye, the chubby guy couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. The undefeated hero commander is gone, so we should probably get out of here soon. The bald guy angrily shouted, "I'm not running, you idiot. If we run, who will clean up the Kaiju eliminated by the defense force?" His two subordinates admitted that he was pretty cool sometimes. Aside from his drinking problem and gambling debts, he's actually quite decent. Returning to headquarters, Kafka resolved to become stronger so he wouldn't have to see his comrades get hurt. "I must destroy number 9 at all cost." Sitting on the bench next to him, Narumi unexpectedly announced, "You can't stay in the defense force. If you keep transforming, you won't be able to turn back into a human. And I can't let someone in that state fight. So please understand. I want to say that, but I'm afraid I can't." The captain suddenly grabbed his shirt and said, "Lend me your strength. I don't care if you fully transform into a Kaiju or not, because right now, I'm fully committed to eliminating number 9 at all cost. This rage, only people like us understand it. So you can't back down now, can you?" Kafka recounted that the commander had disregarded everyone's objections and cleared the way for him. "So, I'm ready for the upcoming battle." Narumi picked his ear and said, "If you say so, then come with me. From now on, it'll be our defense force's rules." While everyone was strenuously training, Hoshina had a brief meeting with number 10 at the research lab. Episode 6. Even though it was just a mass of raw flesh, number 10 still emitted an extremely dangerous and powerful energy. Seeing Hoshina visit, it glared and roared, only to be told by the opponent to shut up. "You idiot. If you keep acting up, I'll cut you down." The monster confessed, "A swordsman like you isn't like the others. I truly want to devour you and turn you into energy." Hoshina didn't care and showed a picture, asking if it knew anything about number 9. The monster mused, "Of course I know, because he created me. If you want to know, then release me from here and fight me." Hoshina thought that wouldn't work, because its core couldn't regenerate anymore. Number 10 denied it, saying, "That's not what I mean. I want you to use technology to turn me into a weapon for you to wield." Then it opened its mouth wide and told Hoshina to give it his body. Everyone was alarmed, warning that weaponizing a high-intelligence Kaiju was unprecedented. "So, we don't know how it will affect the user." Number 10, with its flabby body, admitted that the fight with him was fun. "I fought you, so I know I really enjoy combat. You and I are very similar. As long as we can enjoy the thrilling battlefield, it doesn't matter if the opponent is human or Kaiju." In front of everyone, Hoshina turned and walked away. Standing in the hallway, the young man repeatedly asked, "What kind of terrifying thing is that?" "Let me tell you, I don't want to use that cursed thing at all." The other side also strongly objected, as no one knew what its intentions were. Hoshina knew that using number 10 carried many potential risks. "Well, at worst, I'll just go to the afterlife. What's the big deal?" He contacted and informed the captain, accepting the Kaiju's request. Mina also didn't object and would submit the request to weaponize number 10 to headquarters. Returning to the lab, Hoshina accepted the agreement on the condition that you will be used by me. At the training ground, the old man announced that Hoshina would be attending the strategy meeting to deal with number 9. Today, Kafka really wanted to meet the vice captain again to apologize for hiding his identity. I hope I'll have a chance to talk to him. Hearing Kikaru say that Narumi had taken the squad leader somewhere made the old man run his hand through his hair. Both Squad 1 and Squad 3 operate in Tokyo, so they're often compared. So sometimes, the two sides would bring 500 of their guys out for a martial arts showdown. Narumi held a cigarette and asked, "Who allowed you to set foot on my turf?" Hoshina, with narrowed eyes, replied, "Your superior allowed it, so don't worry. Or are you still upset that I happened to beat you in the Kaiju extermination drill rankings?" Seeing their captain at a disadvantage, the subordinates swarmed to defend him. "We're still upset about that win. You know, who allowed you guys to hunt Kaiju on our territory without permission? Don't you know how to ask politely? You little pest." Narumi, red-faced, stood up and yelled for his comrades to insult his possessions. Hoshina only won in a minor category. You were first in everything else. Oh, wasn't Captain Mina first in the long-range shooting category? Silenced by his opponent, Narumi switched to his childish mode, complaining and telling everyone to get out of here. Unexpectedly, the old man hit his head hard and on behalf of everyone, greeted Hoshina properly. "The conference is ready. I'll lead the way for everyone." That day, many captains and high-ranking members attended. Everyone was present to begin the special strategic conference against Kaiju number 9. Everyone was serious, except Narumi, who was yawning from boredom. Criticized by a colleague, the young man even tried to argue back. Mina told the bald man to just ignore him. "Don't bother yourself. That guy can't do anything but eliminate Kaiju." The drunkard hoped everyone would be amiable, but forgot to hide his full bottle of liquor from the camera. Only when the scarred man spoke did everyone fall silent and listen to Hoshina's presentation. Squad 3 has acquired new information about number 9 from Kaiju number 10. It revealed that it was number 9's creation, shocking everyone. It's the first one that can create new Kaiju at will, and they're extremely superior Kaiju individuals. Number 10 was merely a test product of that Kaiju. Currently, the ability to process numbered Kaiju is limited to 5 at a time. If number 9 is creating a large number of even stronger Kaiju, this country will be destroyed. The entire hall erupted in disbelief that a Kaiju could create new individuals. It's also possible number 10 was bluffing, but when cross-referenced with data, it surprisingly made sense. In recent years, the number of new Kaiju individuals and species has increased significantly. Their strength has also doubled, perfectly matching the information. Recent research indicates that the immense energy and deformation caused by crustal faults have impacted surrounding organisms. This led to the emergence of Kaiju. It's highly likely that number 9 is exploiting this to create Kaiju. The Kaiju constantly changes its form and moves, so its whereabouts are currently unknown. However, Hoshina believes the Kaiju's birthplace is currently in the Philippine Sea. As for the specific location, only number 9 would know. Just locating it would probably take several years. Mina stated that number 9 can access the memories of those it absorbs. By absorbing the commander, it gained knowledge of the Defense Force's combat strength, leaving everyone in a difficult position. Hoshina optimistically believed that the key to victory was surprise, meaning those who aren't primary combatants and are outside number 9's calculations. Although still inexperienced and incomplete, the growth of young talents is the key. Mina proposed that we need to train individuals compatible with the dormant number 6 weapon. That is, pitting a former king against a new one. And currently, Hoshina has found a new recruit whose cell samples show signs of compatibility with number 6. As for the specific identity, that will be revealed later. On the battlefield, the pink-haired guy and everyone else were desperately fighting back, but to no avail. To destroy it, Reno fired bullets powerful enough to freeze a portion of the Kaiju's body. Not stopping there, he continued to leap and unleash a barrage of bullets until it swelled up and exploded. And the chosen one was none other than Reno, one of the young talents making rapid progress. The drunkard poured himself a drink, surprised that they had accepted such a troublesome kid. Back then, when Kaiju number 6 appeared, it brought many high-level Kaiju with it to attack. At that time, Kikoru's mother commanded the combined post-war squad and sacrificed herself. Since then, it became a symbol of despair. And now, we're pushing that burden onto a teenager. After finding and speaking with his superiors, Reno thought a lot that night. Earlier, the drunkard had said that the numbers were powerful weapons. If mastered, they could deal with super Kaiju in a short time. However, due to immense pressure and frequent combat, half of the users had died. Among them, the weapon considered the strongest and most dangerous was number 6. So, the drunkard hoped Reno would refuse to use it. When he heard Kafka join the force as Kaiju number 8, Reno couldn't stop wondering who would save him. The next day, he went to the lab and asked the captain to activate it. Seeing his determined gaze, the old man nodded and told everyone to proceed with the assimilation. Even with just his arm, Reno could feel the weight spreading throughout his body. The drunkard feared the kid couldn't handle it, so he told his subordinate to prepare the restraints. As expected, Reno was consumed by that power, unable to resist. In just a few moments, he saw Kaiju number 6 staring intently within his mind. At that moment, Reno finally understood what his senior felt, always having to fight with this thing. When he opened his eyes, he saw the pink-haired guy standing beside him, overjoyed. He himself was lying in a hospital bed after failing to synchronize with number 6. The captain closed the book and asked the young man, "Do you understand the terror of using that weapon now? Let me say it again, you should refuse it." The drunkard knew the kid was very stubborn and wouldn't listen no matter how much he tried to persuade him. If Reno were sent to the front lines in this condition, he could easily die, just like Kikoru's mother. So, he decided to give him a month to test it, and would then decide if the kid was suitable for number 6. Episode 7. In college, the pink-haired guy completely surpassed his peers, so he didn't really care. The more he trained, the stronger his body became, and he was smarter than others, which made the young man incredibly excited. He even confidently believed that one day he would rival the great heroes. Until now, the pink-haired guy couldn't believe his younger brother was staking his life to use the number 6 weapon. And just like before, Reno once again failed, to everyone's concern. Witnessing the young man destroying himself, his older brother couldn't help but feel annoyed by his stubbornness. As soon as news came that a swarm of Kaiju was rampant in the forest, the drunkard was carrying out an emergency evacuation and deploying forces over a wide area to sweep them. Seizing this opportunity, the captain decided to send Reno to the front lines to assess the compatibility of the number 6 suit. Though not yet activated, the pink-haired guy felt his own balls were frozen. On the other side, the captain couldn't believe that kid had reached battle-ready stats in just 1 month. "Don't you dare tell him I deliberately made the contract difficult." The subordinate assessed Reno's current activation strength. Though far inferior to Kikoru's, his rate of improvement was outstanding. The drunkard thought success lay in real combat, not in some theoretical nonsense. "Now, Reno will go with a squad to eliminate that gigantic Kaiju over there. If the situation becomes unstable, I will personally join the fight. But before that, I'll assess whether you are truly compatible with number 6. Hoshina ordered everyone to begin the operation. Seeing Reno move as light as air, the pink-haired guy immediately activated his full power to catch up with the kid. Since numbered Kaiju weapons often shorten lifespan, the captain only allowed its use for 10 minutes. In short, Reno had to prove himself in that brief, allowed time. While moving closer to the Kaiju, the young man suddenly lost control and couldn't manage the cold energy. Reno began moving erratically, trying to evade attacks, thereby putting himself in a dangerous situation. Fortunately, his comrades arrived just in time to save him. Previously, the pink-haired guy had said he would protect his younger brother, and he was trying to do just that. Taking advantage of an opening, Reno suddenly froze part of the Kaiju's body to restrict its movement. Without hesitation, he jumped onto a nearby tree and created a foothold by freezing his feet. Then he pulled the trigger, firing directly at a vital point to freeze the lizard, which then shattered into pieces. The pink-haired guy stiffened, nearly becoming Kaiju bait due to the terrifying power. He ran, wondering why he couldn't finish off these small fry in one move. Since joining the force, he quickly realized his performance was no longer improving. Compared to true talents, he was no different from an ordinary person. Gradually, the gap not only failed to close but widened. So, seeing Reno pull further and further ahead, his older brother desperately tried to catch up. When his mind was no longer clear, the pink-haired guy was easily swept away by the lizard like a tattered rag. Despite the warnings, the young man stubbornly stayed put instead of retreating. Seeing the lizard charging eagerly, Reno suddenly emerged and thanked him. With that, he raised his gun and fired a barrage of bullets to finish it off. Watching his younger brother effortlessly take down the Kaiju with a single blow, the pink-haired guy kept pleading, "Please don't leave me behind." After dealing with a small fry, Reno immediately targeted the largest lizard. He deliberately aimed at its shoulder to attract its attention, then activated his full power. Just as he hoped, the Kaiju swatted a tree towards the captain and everyone else. Hidden in the blinding smoke, Reno personally froze part of its body, causing the lizard immense pain. Though highly rated, Reno felt this wasn't enough. The toughness of its skin and its regeneration speed were far superior to the smaller Kaiju. This was nothing. The higher Reno's fighting spirit, the more his activation power increased. His reaching 46% power right in the middle of the battle far exceeded the captain's predictions. With a single shot, Reno left a hole in its shoulder, simultaneously neutralizing its regeneration ability. Although his power had reached 51%, Reno felt strangely calm. However, the captain and control room found this reckless action unsettling. The lizard also didn't give up, changing its form to cope with potential risks. Ignoring the warnings, Reno continued to plunge into danger, craving to become stronger. "If I were stronger, I could change so many things. My senior and everyone else wouldn't have to get hurt anymore." Reno recklessly ducked down to gain momentum, then jumped away before the attack landed. As soon as he landed, he immediately charged towards the Kaiju with incredible speed. Despite his strength, Reno's body was beginning to show signs of overload. He attacked erratically and wildly, as if he was being controlled by number 6. The drunkard denied that viewpoint, asserting that this was the real Reno. Number users must transform to adapt to the immense energy from Kaiju cells. This leads to brain stimulation, revealing their true nature and most primitive desires. Depending on the user, it can destroy them. In short, it will cause unpredictable consequences. Not to mention, this weapon was created from the strongest Kaiju, so the physical and mental burden will be many times higher. Believing his younger brother was exceeding the peak, the pink-haired guy immediately set off to stop Reno. "Honestly, when I saw you fail the compatibility test, I felt so relieved. I truly am a terrible person." Meanwhile, Reno gradually lost himself, dominated by emotions and a desire to become stronger. He was capable of freezing a large area, even trapping his comrades inside to ensure their safety. Although the lizard was at a disadvantage, Reno's body was no longer intact. I'm afraid his body has reached its limit. What was bound to happen did. Reno broke his leg in a single fall. Without hesitation, the captain immediately told the boy to stop before things went too far and asked his subordinates to rescue him. Deep down, Reno couldn't stop blaming himself. Why am I so weak? I really can't save anyone. From within the ice, the pink-haired guy suddenly burst out, continuously calling his younger brother's name. He pleaded with the captain for another chance for them both, then continued running to find Reno. As if he discovered something, the drunkard turned back and asked, "What's the pink-haired guy's activation strength?" Hearing the file reported 24%, he found it hard to believe. The pink-haired guy ran and praised Reno as a wonderful person who always thought of his comrades, making him envious. When he found his younger brother on the other side, the older brother used all his strength to break through the thick ice wall. At that moment, Reno was pulled out of the abyss of despair by his older brother's outstretched hand. When he came to, the pink-haired guy explained the current situation and asked, "You'll destroy it, right?" Even after much talk, Reno still didn't give a satisfying answer, so his older brother let go, allowing him to fall. "If you've been messing around so much, don't you dare act all high and mighty, you little brat. I'm your senior, so shut up and rely on me." Reno accepted his own weakness, then sat up and praised the pink-haired guy. "You really are amazing. Whenever I'm scared, you always help me move forward. So this time, please lend me a hand, senior." The pink-haired guy chuckled, then put on his mask and told his younger brother to pay close attention when he signaled. This special sweep operation will be handled by Esta Brothers. Episode 8. Even though Reno had returned to normal, the captain wasn't optimistic because the kid's body was completely battered. Moreover, the pink-haired guy only had an activation strength of less than 24%, making it impossible to defeat the Kaiju. But when he saw the lizard getting electrocuted and stunned, the drunkard began to grow suspicious. That couldn't be 24% activation strength. After a while of observation, the command assessed the pink-haired guy's strength to actually be up to 41%, then corrected it to 22% when the young man stumbled and fell flat on his face. However, when confronting the Kaiju directly, the old man's stats skyrocketed to 42%, confusing the captain. His mouth. Why is it as unstable as stock prices? The female subordinate thought that when he concentrated intensely, his combat power would surge. So, one could say, that kid was the same type as the captain. If the pink-haired guy learned to control his power, his true strength would be formidable. Deep down, the older brother soon realized he wasn't a genius. The harder he tried to catch up, the more he got stuck within the walls. Despite everything, he continued to throw punches until it collapsed. Back in battle, the pink-haired guy constantly harassed the Kaiju from one spot to another, leaving it stunned. When it threw him down, he quickly used nearby branches to swing out to the riverbank. Then he continued to get up, run, and jump onto the lizard to keep harassing it. While it wasn't paying attention, the old man pulled out his hot weapon and continuously fired at one point. The pink-haired guy emptied his entire clip, firing at the weak spot until the core was exposed. Only then did he stop and yell, "Take it down, Reno." Following his brother's command, his younger brother immediately unleashed a huge blue energy beam that pierced the Kaiju. Witnessing that terrifying power reminded the captain of the past. Back then, Kikuru's mother came to announce, "Tomorrow, I'm going to test my compatibility with number 4. If successful, I can eliminate stronger Kaiju." At that time, the young drunkard, still young, fully supported his friend, only to now regret not having strongly opposed it. If he had objected then, perhaps she would still be alive and smiling now. After many hours of fighting, the Kaiju finally fell, and Reno was credited with its elimination. As his younger brother was exhausted, the pink-haired guy excitedly ran over for a high five. In his joy, the older brother shouted and cheered along with the other members. While everyone was cleaning up the debris, the captain showered the kids with praise, saying they were amazing. "Unlike me, I'm always helpless, unable to stand by them at the most important moments." With that, he burst into tears, exclaiming that youth was truly wonderful, horrifying his subordinate. She was moved but deliberately avoided him, which was truly hurtful. After wiping his eyes, the captain made contact and confirmed Reno had passed. "I'm entrusting a part of this country's future to you." Reno looked up at his older brother, tears welling in his eyes, and thanked him. To his subordinate's disbelief, the drunkard felt that extensive talking was unnecessary, because the pink-haired guy had already said everything for me. Now, for this old man to preach more would be too awkward. That night, the drunkard called and commented that Reno was a stubborn, hard-to-teach kid, but he was trusted by his comrades and suitable for using number 6. Like him, Minna didn't want him to die meaninglessly. "You are the most cautious person about using numbers, so I want to ask your opinion." The drunkard pulled out a picture and said, "This is quite a coincidence, isn't it? In short, I will teach both of them everything I can. They will become warriors that will surprise you." During one training session, the entire force was abuzz with news that Reno would be wearing number 6. Kafka was the one who least wanted this to happen. It would be too dangerous to let him face Kaiju number 9. Kikuru smacked him on the back and asked, "Don't you get it yet? Reno is a warrior too, so don't underestimate us." After her reminder, Kikuru left, telling herself that she also needed to become stronger. Instead of stopping him, Kafka changed his mind. That night, he jogged and praised Reno, saying he was really good. He's getting more and more recognition through his own strength. unlike me, who's valued because of Kaiju number 8's power. While he was lost in thought, Hoshina suddenly asked, "Are you planning to steal the spot next to Captain Minna looking like that?" With that, the vice captain suddenly rushed forward, holding a knife to his throat, causing the old man to break out in a cold sweat and slip, sprawling on the ground. After taking his revenge, the young man touched the dummy blade and said, "That's your punishment for hiding your identity from me. I told you it was a draw." But that guy kept whining until he got sick. After scolding him, Hoshino wanted to express his gratitude for saving Squad 3. Not to Kaiju number 8, but to Kafka, the one who transformed despite the risks. "But I heard you wouldn't be able to turn back into a human if you kept transforming, right?" Hoshino wanted the protagonist to stop transforming from now on, because I will defeat number 9. Just follow the path you want to walk. Hearing that, Kafka burst into tears, realizing that while the vice captain always seemed strict, he was actually the kindest person. The old man stood up, thanked him, and flatly refused the offer. "Because I also want to be recognized by my own strength. Everyone, including the vice captain, helped me realize that I won't be able to protect anyone if I keep standing still. I never want to see my comrades cry again. So, I will become number 8 to fight." Hoshina held his head, knowing full well that this old man wouldn't hesitate to keep transforming for others. If that outcome can't be avoided, then he must become stronger. After some consideration, Hoshina decided to teach the old man how to fight. With that, the vice captain drove him to the shrine, a memorial for those who died in Kaiju disasters and sweep operations. In 1657, a Kaiju appeared and burned down almost the entire city. Back then, methods for fighting Kaiju weren't advanced, so this place had the most casualties in the history of sweep operations. Of course, if we die, we'll be enshrined here too. After boosting the protagonist's morale, Hoshina took off his jacket, warmed up, and told him to come on. "I want to fight a solo match to see how much you've improved." Kafka smiled, taking a stance, and replied, "Then I'll fight seriously." The moment the vice captain signaled, the old man immediately threw a series of punches, but none of them hit. Hoshina only needed to stand still and dodge, occasionally tripping him. In truth, before starting, Kafka knew he had no chance of winning, but he wouldn't give up easily, even if he had to take a lot of punishment. "I'll definitely show him the results of my training and my growth after real combat." But when he was overwhelmed by Hoshina, Kafka gradually realized this was completely impossible. Indeed, without transforming, I'm just a punching bag for the vice captain. However, when he heard Hoshina praise him, "You've gotten stronger," Kafka seemed to awaken, charging in to fight fiercely again. Just by looking at his body and movements, Hoshina realized he hadn't slacked off. Not even for a day. "You always try hard, but this much isn't enough yet." With that, Hoshina suddenly delivered a painful blow to his stomach. Kafka, dizzy, raised his hands to block the attack, but the other guy suddenly stopped the fight. The vice captain assessed that number 8 had great strength and regeneration, but he relied too heavily on those points. "If you keep fighting like this, sooner or later you'll die and be enshrined here." Hit directly by Hoshina, Kafka thought he was getting beaten by the commander again, like last time. Hoshina introduced, "This is the hand-to-hand combat technique set, built upon the fighting style perfected by the commander. From now on, I will teach you this technique. Living in this country also means fighting Kaiju periodically, not just number 9. Survive tenaciously and try to claim the spot next to the captain from me." After motivating the old man, the young man then reneged, saying, "Even in my dreams, I wouldn't yield." Before leaving, Kafka almost forgot that he had become stronger than before. As he bowed to show respect, the old man glimpsed a hidden samurai standing before the shrine. Urged by the vice captain, Kafka had no choice but to leave with the question, "What was that thing?" Episode 9. In the office, the scarred man silently observed the scattered papers and the commander's portrait. The man was slowly sinking into an abyss from which he couldn't resurface. Meanwhile, Kafka was training his movement under Hoshina's guidance. The key to this combat technique is using the lower body to transfer power to punches. So, the protagonist's first task is to master the 5 basic movement types. "I'll come to check twice a week, so if you get lazy, you'll regret it." When he saw the old man get cramps from practicing the combat skills, Kikaru couldn't help but laugh, saying it suited someone clueless about weapons like him, which clearly annoyed him. Kidding aside, "I know it's hard to master because I used to practice with my dad every day." Hearing that, Kafka thought to himself that he'd probably have to try harder too. To boost his morale, Kikaru handed Kafka his phone as per Chop's instructions. After that, she turned and left, advising him to try contacting everyone. In his private room, Kafka carefully pondered how he would face them. It had been almost 2 months since he was transported away. He wondered how everyone would react when they found out he was Kaiju no 8. When he turned on his phone, Kafka was startled by the countless notifications he had. "How in the world do I have 593 unread messages?" The old man figured they were probably full of insults, so he didn't dare open them. Suddenly, his younger brother called, making him jump and drop his phone on the bed. In a panic, he accidentally hung up, making the situation even more awkward. Kafka sighed, intending to turn off his phone for good when the pink-haired guy called. When he answered, Reno grumpily asked, "Why are you finally answering now, huh? And you didn't even bother to contact us for the past 2 months. Couldn't you find any other way to contact us? Are you that dumb?" This time, you probably asked Kikaru to make excuses for you again, right? After gossiping, Reno shyly asked, "Do you know how worried we've been here?" Kafka lowered his head and apologized, saying too much had happened. "And I was also afraid that Squad 3 wouldn't see me as a comrade anymore." They must have been shocked when they found out I was Kaiju no 8. Suddenly, the pink-haired guy cut in, saying, of course we were scared. That power clearly belongs to a monster far beyond humans, so fear is natural. But fear and hatred are two different things, so don't get them confused. When we saw you risking your life to protect the base, we already considered you a comrade. Just like Minna once said, no one in Squad 3 considers you an enemy. The pink-haired guy was annoyed that Kafka would think they were such cold-hearted people. Reno grabbed the phone and said, it's not just us, everyone believes you'll come back. Those aren't just my words. A moment later, Kikaru dropped by and asked, have you contacted everyone yet? Kafka sat there blankly, replying, the kids called me an idiot. Then he made a sour face and admitted he was indeed an idiot, making the blonde girl laugh. I've known that for a long time. You don't need to remind me. As the commander-in-chief struggled against the absorption process happening from within, he accidentally discovered No. 9 and its monsters growing stronger, far beyond his imagination. In a remote mountain area, the Golden Boy saw an incredibly massive humanoid Kaiju moving. At the same time, many strange entities appeared, such as peculiar-looking cubes. The Kaiju appeared and disappeared right in the city center. The monsters created waterspouts to suck up seawater, sending fish flying everywhere. Some even raced cars on the highway. Since last month, there had been 14 unresolved monster incidents, as they all disappeared before the defense force arrived. Not to mention, some even brazenly stood before cameras as if challenging them. Hoshina believed they possessed far higher intelligence than previous monsters. It was highly likely this was an omen for the great disaster, No. 9. It seemed their Kaiju reproduction rate was much faster than the information from No. 10. Chop reported that the dispersion of critical facilities was being prepared step by step. Additionally, soliciting aid from other countries was being considered but required more time. Regarding countermeasures, the organization decided to unseal Suit No. 1 and was optimizing it for Narumi. As for No. 3, 5, and 7, they were still under consideration due to finding more than two compatible individuals. Despite the plans, Scarface thought that if multiple monsters capable of overwhelming the commander-in-chief appeared, it still wouldn't be enough. In a national crisis like this, being able to do nothing felt like a bitter pill to swallow in old age. Before losing consciousness, the commander-in-chief could only rely on the young warriors, and of course, his beloved daughter. The future of this country rests entirely on all of you. Keeping his promise, Narumi led his subordinate to the research lab and made Kikaru the wielder of Suit No. 4, a weapon with a long history connected to her mother. Seeing it, Kikaru placed her hand on it, saying, I will avenge my father, so please, mother, lend me your strength. At a family's home, a little girl Kafka once saved told her mother that even if No. 9 appeared, the monster man would defeat them. Meanwhile, the staff were startled to learn that the room where the captain and Kikaru trained was shaking violently. Not just them, but at training ground No. 2, the largest training session in history was underway. Guided by Chop, after many days of practice, Hoshina finally felt the power of Kafka's punch. Seeing the old man gloating a bit too soon, Hoshina quickly hit the training bag into Kafka's face. Then he gently delivered a close-range strike, making him fall face first. If you hate me, just say so. Do you really have to do that, Hoshina? While having lunch on the rooftop, Kafka accidentally spotted the captain eating nearby. As he was about to discreetly leave, Minna suddenly called out, telling him to sit down. As expected of the strongest female captain in the defense force, I didn't even make a sound, but she already noticed me. Kafka was flustered, not knowing how to start, but Minna spoke first. She expressed how peaceful it was to see everyone working, studying, and having fun. This tranquility was like the monsters had been completely annihilated. Remembering the time they both said they would defeat the Kaiju together, Kafka forgot the distance between them. Minna smiled and said, you don't need to be so reserved. It's just the two of us here. Like her, Kafka yearned for these peaceful days to last forever. Back then, whenever an alarm went off, you were always the first to rush there. To be honest, I was a bit embarrassed back then. Kafka choked, defending himself. Back then, I was the captain, so it was natural for me to worry about you. How could Minna forget the captain who always led everyone? Even though he was scared himself, he always smiled to reassure her. It felt like you could handle all the monsters if they appeared. You were so cool when you were little, and you still are. I heard Hoshina talk about your determination. I've grown stronger, and I'm no longer the little girl who just hid behind you. So don't carry the burden alone, okay? Didn't we promise to defeat all the monsters together? Even with the lingering dread of No. 9, he responded with a bright smile. As she walked inside, Minna quickly realized he was still the same as before. Even that forced smile hadn't changed. Currently, Kafka was plagued by worry, wondering if he could defeat that monster. After some thought, he told himself he absolutely had to win for the future. In some corner of the street, two carefree men approached and tried to flirt with a female student. Little did they know, the girl's face tensed up, and she said, I was just about to call my friend. Before transforming, then she created a ton of cells, wiping out all the surrounding residents in less than a blink. Episode 10. Since Kafka said he couldn't make it, the guys decided to put his photo up to liven things up. But on closer inspection, it looked like a memorial photo. While they were chatting, the organizers suddenly invited the bride's father over, making the bearded old man stiffen. After all, it was his daughter's wedding today, so it was natural to be nervous. Before entering the aisle, his daughter deliberately stomped on his foot and asked, Why are you more nervous than me, Dad? After chiding him, she hooked her arm around his and thanked him for everything. making his heart swell. As the doors slowly opened, a round of applause greeted the father and daughter. However, the wedding hadn't even begun when a monster, appearing from nowhere, attacked. At the same time, the reception center suddenly received a flood of reports from all over Tokyo. What in the world is happening? From underground, hundreds of monsters unexpectedly burst forth, causing chaos everywhere and terrifying the citizens. They're so numerous and appearing so rapidly. How can we possibly deal with them all? Back at the wedding hall, the family was carrying their vulnerable son to the shelter when they were attacked by monsters, causing the daughter to stumble and fall. As they struggled to save their fragile son, the daughter became the monster's next target. Refusing to see his daughter eaten alive, the father desperately bit his arm until blood flowed. Then he used his own blood to attract them, but it was futile. Witnessing his daughter about to be devoured, the father could only helplessly pray for a miracle. In the most critical moment, Narumi arrived just in time to slice the lizard into pieces. His subordinates rescued the bride and the victims, bringing tears to the father's eyes. After rescuing the civilians, Narumi called to report the situation and praise Mina. Then he swept his hair back and declared the Japan Defense Force is launching. At headquarters, Scarface ordered everyone to activate their combat power against the monsters. Narumi, with his future-seeing eyes, easily discerned the movements and weaknesses of each monster. After observing, he swiftly dispatched them all without expending much effort. Suddenly, Chop called to report that Squads 1 and 3 had deployed across Tokyo. The securing of evacuation points was proceeding faster than ever before. But the bad news is we're receiving too many requests for aid from other squads. Just as Hoshina predicted, monsters appeared everywhere, making relief efforts very difficult. Not only were they numerous, but they appeared at such a high frequency that the defense force had to spread out its personnel to cope. What was remarkable was that they all targeted major cities and critical facilities. This indicated that someone was behind them, controlling the monsters. Chop warned that the number of monsters appearing was immense, so they couldn't rely on aid from other squads. Narumi found this normal, as they had been preparing for this exact situation all along. As the tense situation escalated, Scarface decided to use the weapon that had been sealed for the past 10 years, and the one to wield it was none other than the Commander-in-Chief's daughter. The girl looked just like her mother in her youth. Before heading to the battlefield, Kikoru murmured, "Perhaps I'm still not strong enough to replace Mother, but I will definitely become a worthy master of this suit." With that, Kikoru started the aircraft and then launched at incredible speed. As it approached the target airspace, the machine detached its launch compartment and deployed its shield. As soon as the pressure decreased, Kikoru immediately activated No. 4 to enter the G-Quest area. Suit No. 4 was said to be the fastest and only member capable of flight. That's why Kikoru's mother had the highest number of monster kills in history. Seeing a horde of monsters cornering a defense force unit, Kikoru immediately descended like lightning, defeating them in a single blow. After dealing with it, Narumi called to inform her, "I'm giving you 10 minutes to take care of all that." The student seriously replied, "5 minutes is all I need," and began her sweep. Noticing the girl's incredible speed, the commander immediately told the entire squad to switch to freeze rounds. "We'll focus on locking down their movements to support her." Witnessing Kikoru handling each monster alone, so fast that even their support couldn't keep up, the commander exclaimed, "This is captain level, isn't it?" Scarface assessed that in addition to the offensive power inherited from her father, Kikoru also possessed mobility inherited from her mother. It seems she's just like both of them. For now, everyone could breathe a sigh of relief as Phase A had succeeded as expected. Furthermore, everyone received more good news. Suit No. 10 had been fully prepared. After being awakened, the monster inside the suit immediately went berserk, wanting to rampage. Hoshina lightly tapped the armor, telling it to calm down and be controllable. More importantly, "Why does the suit talk? You little brat." The four-eyed girl quickly explained that due to the difficulty of neural synchronization, verbal communication was necessary. Moreover, this was only a prototype, so there would definitely be many risks in real combat. Hoshina showed no hesitation when facing danger. The problem was that No. 10 was so loud it was deafening. "If we fail today, I'll die, and you'll be sold to a junkyard." No sooner had it spoken than No. 10 used its tail to cut the floor, witnessing the vice captain plummet straight into the monster's gathering area. The four-eyed girl immediately pulled her hair, muttering, "It's really too soon for real combat." Hoshina calmly said, "I'll teach you what respect means." With that, the vice captain drew his weapon and carefully observed and assessed the surroundings. Just as he was about to attack from the left, No. 10 suddenly disobeyed orders. Turns out, it was bored and wanted to fight in more challenging spots. When he tried to sneak between its legs to slash from behind, No. 10 deliberately stood still, letting him take the hit. "I wanted to see how strong it was, so just bear with it for a bit." After observing for a while, everyone realized that the vice captain's movements and the suit were completely out of sync. Due to the mental synchronization not working, the combat power was dropping to an alarming level. Four Eyes advised the vice captain to quickly retreat to base and sortie again in his regular suit. "If your combat power drops any further, you'll have a hard time defending against attacks." Hoshina angrily told No. 10 to listen, but the Kaiju kept doing whatever it wanted. As a result, both were caught in an explosion from the aircraft thrown by the Locust. Emerging from the smoke, No. 10 smugly said, "Thanks to my enhancement, you avoided a direct hit. Isn't it because you're stubborn and didn't listen that we're in this situation?" Hoshina felt annoyed because he always got stuck with stubborn ones. Disobeying orders is a fatal flaw for a weapon. If you keep being stubborn, you'll be disposed of. But I don't want to die here. So today I'll cooperate with you. No. Ten was extremely pleased, saying, just put your life on the line with me, causing its combat power to skyrocket. Following the monster's orders, Hoshina easily dealt with the small fry without much difficulty. When fighting small fries, just gather them all up and strike for satisfaction. While no, Ten was still roaring in excitement, Hoshina personally chopped the locust into pieces. After clearing out the small fry, the two continued jumping onto the main road to fight more. When the combat power reached 67%, no, Ten noticed Hoshina was doing well and changed its mind. This time, I won't dodge. You try to defend against everything yourself. Intending to test him, Hoshina surprisingly stood still, refusing to dodge, forcing no, Ten to use its tail for defense. I just saved your life, and you're complaining about debris hitting me, Hoshina grumbled, making the Kaiju blush. Meanwhile, everyone was confused, wondering why the more those two argued, the more their combat power surged. They argued nonstop, yet their stats kept rising rapidly. It was truly absurd. Seeing the boss monster appearing right before them, Hoshina immediately ordered no, Ten to block all attacks from the small fries, and I'll engage the black one head-on. Although they hated each other like fire and water, they coordinated strangely well. After clearing out the obstructing monsters with razor-sharp slashes, Hoshina calmly approached the boss monster, leaving no, Ten to finish off the rest. It's certainly a new feeling to have someone clear a path for me for the first time. Hoshina was preparing to deliver the final blow, when his muscles suddenly felt like they were exploding. So this is the power of no, Ten. Despite his hatred, Hoshina had to admit fighting with you is truly amazing. With that, the vice captain charged, slicing the boss monster into pieces with an 8-part strike. Just as he was about to head to the train station to help his comrades, no, Ten got fired up, demanding to wipe out all the guards. If you don't do what I say, I'll plant myself here until you change your mind. Although its personality was a bit difficult, a 77% activation rate was truly not to be underestimated. If it could unleash over 90%, the combat power would surely be even more terrifying. Most areas had been cleared, except for the zone managed by the squad leader. The reason was heavy traffic, which limited the combat range. Not to mention, 6 of the monsters were gigantic, making the situation worse than ever. In this dire situation, Kafka proactively asked for permission to confront them but was refused. You're an indispensable ace to deal with no 9. If you transform like last time, he might pinpoint your location and ambush you. As the two sides argued, a monster's belly swelled, and it created an energy sphere to attack the city. To resolve the situation, Mina spoke up, telling the entire squad to retreat. I'll use this powerful cannon to blow all of them away. Episode 11. While everyone was still stunned, Mina blew away a giant monster 20 kilometers away, astonishing the squad leader. As soon as the next reload was complete, she immediately fired, obliterating the monsters at once with a single shot. All the squad leaders broke into a cold sweat upon hearing the report, never imagining Squad 3's cannon possessed such devastating power. Even Scarface rated Mina as superior to Narumi in terms of confronting large-scale monsters. The only person in the world who could unleash that level of power is her. Though only one monster remained, Mina still wanted to perform one final shot. Living up to everyone's expectations, she confidently aimed and eliminated the last one. After dealing with it, the commander immediately dispatched forces to rescue the civilians. Meanwhile, Kafka was shouting below, nearly tripping. See, that's the power of Captain Mina. He was so engrossed in talking that he forgot to turn off his mic, only to be chewed out by his superiors. Go help the civilians who haven't made it to the shelter yet, old man. At the base, everyone was overjoyed to learn that the monsters were almost completely suppressed. However, Narumi and those on the front lines didn't think so. The disaster caused by No. 9 can't end so simply. Chop wondered, are their targets truly humanity's weak points? They barely focused on causing destruction at all. Although No. 8 was nowhere to be seen, No. 9 remained calm because everything was going according to plan. It seems it's time for me to reveal my hand. While standing guard, water unexpectedly burst violently from the sewers, confusing everyone. Just as Narumi thought, now was the true beginning. Headquarters estimated the new monster emerging from underground was as strong as No. 10. Not only Narumi, but even the student encountered an entity identical to herself. Hoshina had just entered the battlefield only to face a terrifying monster. All three possessed strength of 9 and were humanoid types. Therefore, from this point forward, Scarface would refer to the monsters by their corresponding numbers. As soon as it saw Kikaru, the monster immediately reverted to its original form and swelled up. Sensing danger, she immediately warned the entire squad to retreat, but it was too late. With a single blast, the female Kaiju pierced through several buildings and sent 6 squad members to their deaths, leaving everyone breathless. And of course, only Kikaru avoided it, surviving just as the monster predicted. After a moment of thought, Narumi realized the monster's objective wasn't to destroy weak points. Their true intention was to disperse and eliminate the main forces, making the situation worse. Because humanoid types require multiple high-ranking captains to deal with them. Now they're intentionally splitting up to take on each person individually. For a rookie like Kikaru, who's only been enlisted for a year, it's simply too much. Instead of motivating her, Narumi called and said, "There's no backup. You have to defeat it yourself." Until now, Kikaru had always been saved at critical moments. The ones who truly defeated strong enemies were never me. Kikaru jumped down and told her foolish teacher, I intended to do that from the start. You don't need to tell me. With that, she activated her suit to 84%, astonishing everyone. Hoshina exclaimed, with that much power, she could be a captain anywhere. But for now, we have to deal with the numbered monsters first. Let's start sweeping them away. Just as she finished speaking, the female Kaiju suddenly warped to her side and kicked Kikuru away. After a narrow escape, Kikuru told herself she absolutely couldn't falter, then picked up her weapon to face it head-on. Before the monster could launch an attack, Kikuru immediately charged, unleashing techniques. But all missed. Meanwhile, her opponent calmly dodged, occasionally firing a few shots to scare the blonde girl. Observing this battle, Scarface didn't hesitate to declare her the strongest first-year squad member in history, surpassing many, including Narumi. Sooner or later, she will become a core member of the defense force in the near future. But the question is, can she survive this battle? With just one kick, the female Kaiju easily pinned Kikuru to the ground. Before it could strike, she quickly activated her suit to dodge aside. Kikuru struggled to stand, deploying a shield for defense, but the female Kaiju destroyed it with a single punch. It even sent the girl flying, damaging her ribs and left lung. Kikuru struggled to reach for her weapon, but the female Kaiju flew over, saying, "It's useless. With that small stature and power, you can't even touch me." Through their conversation, Scarface suddenly realized the opponent not only knew a lot about Kikuru, but also shared many similarities. What is going on here? On the other side, the monster unexpectedly used water, making Narumi lose his balance. Then it delivered a powerful punch, making the captain spit blood. The water Kaiju revealed, "I know your eyes use electrical signals in the body to read my movements, but water movements can't be read, so that ability is garbage." At the same time, Hoshina was struggling against an extremely brutal monster. It relentlessly lunged forward, unleashing a barrage of slashes to overwhelm the vice captain. Witnessing Hoshina taking numerous small injuries, the four-eyed girl began to doubt the monster's origin. Could it have been created specifically to counter him? Scarface suddenly spoke up. "You're right. Humans have always studied creatures that could pose a threat to devise countermeasures. But this is the first time in history that we are the ones being studied. To put it bluntly, they were truly designed to destroy our defense force. If they don't break through, they'll inevitably be defeated by these monsters sooner or later." In the shelter, Zozo was sitting blankly when a colleague rushed over with good news. "I heard your daughter has woken up." Just then, the news reported that the new monsters appearing today all had strength levels above 9, making the atmosphere even more stifling. If the news was true, it meant the end of humanity was very near. Everyone was considering fleeing, but the bearded man stood up, volunteering to help the soldiers. "There are still people out there fighting for us. Don't just give up." Outside, Kafka was evacuating civilians while the battle raged. Suddenly, the commander called, ordering all squad members to establish a restricted access zone with a 3-kilometer radius. Anyone with an activation power below 60% is strictly prohibited from approaching. With that, she immediately hung up to confront the incoming monster. While Kafka was busy moving people into the shelter, a kind little girl ran to help an elderly woman struggling on the road. Noticing the old woman's trembling hands from fear, the girl immediately pulled out some Defense Force collector cards, saying they were the strongest. The girl's spirit reminded Kafka of the promise he and Mina made years ago, the time when they competed to see who would become the coolest squad member. As the disaster drew nearer, people began to scramble into shelters to save their lives. Seeing the little girl's cards fall, Kafka frantically bent down to pick them up, admitting she was right. There are many strong people fighting out there, so just wait safely. When asked if he was on a card, Kafka just smiled and said he wasn't. Just as he was about to run off to help everyone, the little girl said, "When I'm on a card, I'll definitely look for you." Bolstered by her words, Kafka felt less worried and ran off, witnessing his comrade being choked by a monster until he spat blood. The squad leader was horrified, realizing the brutality, and trembled uncontrollably. In a flash, Chako suddenly remembered why Narumi trusted her and gave her the squad leader position. If one stronghold fell, the entire plan could collapse at any moment. Therefore, even if it meant sacrificing herself, she picked up her gun and continued fighting. From within the smoke, the monster suddenly charged, destroying both her weapon and the user. Her goal in joining the force was to become stronger because she wanted Narumi to notice her. Despite being severely wounded, she stood up, fighting with all the pride of a squad leader. She knew she couldn't win, but continued to fight with her life. She decisively threw a freeze bomb to neutralize its movements. Then she ran over, buying as much time as she could. With her life, she would gather more information and report it to Narumi immediately. Unexpectedly, the monster snuck behind her and punched her, sending her flying to the ground, leaving her body numb. Even though she knew she would eventually sacrifice herself on the battlefield, when faced with death, she didn't want to accept it at all. The monster didn't hesitate, raising its fist to deliver the finishing blow and end its prey's life. But before it could strike, Kafka carried her to another spot. The old man apologized for disobeying the squad leader's orders. "But I don't want to stay in the rear while everyone sacrifices themselves on the front lines." Kafka gently placed his superior down, smiling, "I'll definitely take care of it. You just rest easy here." After reassuring her, he immediately transformed into Kaiju Note 8 to teach the monster a lesson. But because of that very action, now, 9 finally pinpointed his location.